So let's start the story now, right? So poverty is not destiny, right? So there I was, in a huge auditorium like our PAC in Maynard. You've been there? How many of you have been to PAC at Maynard? Most of you, right? I'm surprised I don't see many more hands, right? So we're all sitting in the audience at CU Boulder in a huge auditorium like our PAC, and there were about 5 students sitting in front on the podium, right, like her, and a senior like her, says, I did not know what I wanted to do in life until I was 14. That's exactly the reaction we all had. We were all chuckling, right? I did not know what I wanted to do until I was 14. And then she continued. She said, that was when my mother was diagnosed with cancer. Guess how we felt? So anyway, I don't have any life-changing moment like that to kind of walk you through what is happening here, right? But I was going through, my recollection of elementary and middle school is largely one of frustration. I can't even remember many of my teachers, unlike most of you, right? Each of you will be able to rattle off your elementary teachers' names, middle school teachers' names, and say, she made the difference, he made the difference. So the only person I remember from my elementary and middle school is this person. She's the principal of my school, Mrs. Jabamalai Peters. And as a kid, if somebody said, Mrs. Peters, we can count how many kids would wet their pants. Just saying Mrs. Peters, kids would wet their trousers, right? Immediately, you can imagine. So can you visualize this person? That's the only person I remember. And by the way, I was a frequent flyer in her office through elementary and middle school, whether I did something or even for things I didn't do. Any rate, so that's my recollection of elementary and middle school for you. And my teachers were like this person, beautifully, they'll draw everything on the chalkboard, draw everything, and all I had to do sit every day was sit and get, right? So guess how school was? Very frustrating. So that was when, I must have been around 14 as well, when I said, no, this is not something I want to do. I want to become a teacher, right? So that was a big deal. So, oh, he gave me a clicker. Thank you, Mr. Loredo. So then, obviously, life was a struggle for me as the youngest of 4 in my family. So every day, the conversation on the kitchen table can't be very different from many of you, I'm guessing. It was, how do you make ends meet? My eldest brother was out of state studying, so dad was the only person bringing money home. Mom was a homemaker. So my sister ended up going to work, and listening to that conversation obviously made me start to think, this is not okay, I got to do something. So I decided, let me look at the classified section of the newspaper. I don't know if you guys have ever looked at it, the teeny weeny places where you sit down and look at it. So I started to look at those, and then pretty much every one of them required a matriculation certificate. So anyway, got my matriculation, grade 10, and then apply for a job, got an interview, and go down, and I'm all excited and hoping this is going to be my big success. And then the hiring manager, think of a community member here, right? I really thank this gentleman, not this one, this is a stock photo, who said, I'm sorry I can't give you this job. And I was devastated. So I tried to reason with him. I started to plead, I started to bargain, and then he says, son, I'm sorry, look at your marks, right? Grades is what we refer to as marks across the pond. Look at your marks, you've got some great marks, you're a smart kid. There is no future for you in this company. After years, you can kind of become like me someday and then become just a manager. So no, and I needed the job, I needed the money, right? So I was trying to persuade him to say no, yes. But he was I think I would craft him as a visionary, and he was a very persuasive person too. So he said, son, why don't you do this? You go back home, come back with your high school diploma. I'll create a job for you in this company. So that's how he got me off his back, when I just got past my grade 10. So I think by now you can see I'm still kind of getting to where it is. So I hope you're waiting till lunch when I finish my story, right? No, I'm kidding. So I'm going to fast forward a couple of decades. Today wasn't a bright and beautiful blue sky day like it was on that Tuesday like today. in 2001. I know everybody in September of 2001 knew where you were at 9 o'clock in the morning. Can you remember that? Just about 45 minutes away. So my wife and I were driving to a cake party in the University of Texas at Houston, and then 3 days later we got married in Houston. And of course, bless her heart, she is the reason why I can do everything that I can do. So I'm going to fast forward again. So I didn't want you staying here till the end of the day. And then this gentleman, Professor Brent Wilson, he's my doctoral advisor, and he is somebody I owe a lot to for really grounding me in many ways, caring for me in many ways. And just about 7 months ago, ended up going on top of what is called Chautauqua Park. You can see the University of Colorado in Boulder out here. It's actually bigger. I would say it's about twice as big as UT. How many of you have been to UT? It's about twice the size. Look at the size of those buildings there. It's a beautiful campus, CU Boulder. So if not for him, I would never have gone hiking. So one December early morning after just joining Maynard. And guess what? I almost fell down as I was coming back as an accident. I not only killed myself, I was about to kill him too. So I go down and he's going down the other way. Anyway, we're both fine. I'm walking now. Everything is golden. So fast forward another point in 2007, knowing that I was going to graduate in 3 months. My dad, I think I had a lot of grudge, and I felt I was always shortchanged for almost all my life. And Brent would always say, "No, Nathan," and so on and so forth. So 2007, he passed, but I would say, while I did have all those grudges, in the last 10 minutes of his life, he really taught me everything I needed to do in 2007. So I owe him a lot. And you guys struggle with Bala Subramanian, don't you? That's his name. So he deserves all the credit for the name. So he was the first B, and then I'm now the second one. But I think his name must be one of the longest in the world, I would think. That's my grandpa, paternal grandpa. His name is Radhakrishnan. So imagine writing all that out. But I know there's one in our class who's got a name who's got similar, pretty long next to me. The last person I'm going to point to is my mentor, right? Jack McCabe. Bless his heart. He passed, unfortunately, about maybe a decade ago. So he's the one who really got me my first administrative break. He was the ED of BOCES in Colorado, like the ESC here. And he taught me some of the most profound lessons in life, right? He was the one to remind me and say, look, we are in the people business. It's about people, right? He would tell me, look, let's watch what are the pronouns we use. And he taught me another important lesson about what his mentor taught him. And he said, life, work, right? Can you see the two visuals there? Life is like an egg. Family is like an egg. What happens if you drop an egg? Can you put it back? It's a Humpty Dumpty situation, right? So you cannot put it back. But work is like a rubber ball, right? It falls down, you miss something, you can always pick it up, go to another place, and continue your work. So that was very, very profound. So I told you life was a struggle for me as I came, like most of you. But that was then. And for a person who came from very humble beginnings, I just barely closed on the home a few days ago, just this past Friday. So that's the sunset yesterday from my new home, just from my backyard, right? And you see a map of the world in many ways. So just about every continent there, not only have I visited, I've got stuff from there in my home, right? So the key in the story I want you to walk away with is if I, as a, with this funky name, plus coming from very humble beginnings, can be where I am today, I'm extremely confident every one of our 9,000 kids in Maynard can get here. And I appreciate each and every one of you for doing what you do. I'm looking forward to a great year ahead with us together. And here is my plea, right? Poverty is not destiny. Destiny is forever changed through equity.